Hi, everyone. This is James Patrick and Florence Carmela. And yes, we are back. A lot of people saying, where are they? Where are they? We are back. Not that a lot of you were missing us, but we are really happy to be back. COVID just kind of took us for a loop, and we've had a lot of personal things go on, but we're so excited to be back. And Florence, for us to come back with someone so special to us, especially me being a huge Raider fan, we're just really excited to have this guest, and I'm sure you guys will love this.
Yes, she has been such a special friend to us on social media, and we adore her. She is a sports analyst. She is the former CEO of the Oakland Raiders. She's also an author and a lawyer, and now a brand new podcaster. So we'd like to welcome to the show Amy Trask. How are you, Amy?
I am well, and I adore you both, but I'm going to disagree with you right off the bat, James.
Oh.
You, I hope teasingly, jokingly said people might not have been missing you. Of course, everyone was missing you. We were all missing you. So there you go. Right off the bat, I'm disagreeing with you.
Well, thank you so much. We have had such an amazing array of guests, and I mean, I just can't believe. And thank you to all the celebrities that came on our show. Gosh, I mean, Mick Foley and Steve Sharipa from The Sopranos, and gosh dang, I mean, we've had so many. And we've had some tough questions. Michael DeBar, who was at Live Aid and took over for Power Station. And some of the things that were going on. He had a little Freddie Mercury stories. So it was a lot of fun stuff. So we've really had some great guests, and the support online of Donnie Marie Osmond and Kathy Ireland. I don't mean to name drop too much, but it's very humbling to have people be so nice to us. So we're very blessed with everything. Don't think we'll ever get a big head, because we're very humbled by all of the stuff that all of you guys do for us. So,
well, excuse me for interrupting, but the support you receive is a very loud statement about the respect that people have for you. People don't jump on to have conversations with people that they don't trust and that they don't respect. So that's a loud statement about you both.
Oh, well, thank you so much. Yes, Mick Foley went so far out of his way. We actually did the interview on his daughter's cell phone. So
I love that.
So, but Amy, you've done pretty much everything in this in the football world, and I wanted to first talk. And some people have talked about it. We had a couple questions about it. What made you want to write the book that you wrote called Negotiate Like a Girl? Why was it important for you to do that?
Well, I have always loved to write. There was a time in my life where I thought that's what I might do. I might be a writer. I thought maybe I'd be a journalist, or I thought maybe I'd be like the Jessica Fletcher character in Murder, She Wrote. And I'd write somewhere and I don't know, solve mysteries of some sort, or maybe I'd sit on a beach and write romance novels of some sort. But I've just always loved to write. And I had what I considered to be such special stories from my time in the league. I decided I wanted to share them. It was nothing more complicated than that.
I got to meet Al Davis one time. I owned a respiratory company, and we did the oxygen for the Raiders a couple times. And I'll never forget meeting him. I was in awe, and I thought he's going to give me some incredible quip and everything. And he said, thanks for your support, young man, but make sure you do a good job.
I'm smiling ear to ear. You are gracious and kind enough to take me without video because I'm in a location where I can't use it. But if you could see me, I am smiling ear to ear because that is just vintage Al. I remember it was my first 2 weeks with the team, it seems. Maybe 2.5 weeks, early in my career. And he asked me to do, maybe even less than that. And he gave me an assignment and I said, okay, kind of got all excited. And I said, okay, I'll try to get that done, or I'll try to do that. And he looked at me and he said, hey, I didn't ask you to try. I told you to get it done.
Yeah, he was a definite beat around the bush guy.
Yeah, right.
But What are some things that you'd like people to know about Al Davis, especially your relationship with him? He obviously thought you were a very special talent. What are some of the things that you remember about Al and you'd like people to know?
I believe the biggest misconception about Al, no, I don't believe it. I know it. The
Hmm.
biggest misconception about him is that he wouldn't tolerate disagreement or wouldn't tolerate those who would disagree with him. Because if that was the case, I would have lost my job. Again, roughly 2.5 weeks into my job, I was sitting in the office with a coworker, and Al walked in and he ripped into this colleague, this coworker of mine, like I can only imagine a velociraptor would have ripped into flesh. And he was just tearing into this guy. And as I was listening, I realized he was wrong. So Al was speaking loudly. So in order to be heard, I had to speak loudly. And I have a loud voice in general. So I said, again, rather loudly, "Excuse me, you're wrong." I will never forget the look on his face when he turned and looked at me. And I said again, "You're wrong." And I went on to say, if the facts upon which you were basing your conclusion, if the data you had, the information you had, and you were basing your conclusion upon was accurate data, accurate information, well, then that would be a fair conclusion. But you're basing your conclusion on inaccurate data, inaccurate information, and your conclusion is therefore wrong. Well, he yelled, I yelled. And when I say yelled, we were just having a sort of a debate. We were
Yeah.
arguing with one another in very loud voices. It wasn't personalized. It wasn't screaming at one another. It was just, very loud, hot debate. And, again, I was explaining to him loudly that if he was basing his conclusion on accurate information, it would be a fair conclusion. But he was basing it on inaccurate data. Well, we went back and forth and back and forth. And I learned after the fact that we were so loud and it was such a debate that people from all over the building gathered in the hallway
Oh boy.
outside the office in which we were arguing. And one woman actually brought boxes because she figured, okay, this person who's been here 2.5 weeks, she's gone. Well, after quite a bit of time, he said, "Oh, okay, I got it. I gotcha. I got it." And we then went on to have a terrific discussion. And what I learned in that moment was that the rumors or the urban legend, if you will, about Al not tolerating disagreement and not tolerating those who disagreed with him wasn't true. And
Yeah.
we went on to have a relationship where over almost 30 years, we disagreed with one another more than we agreed with one another. I felt it was my responsibility to disagree when I thought he was wrong, to try to convince him to do something differently when I thought he was wrong. But I
Hmm.
also recognized at the end of the day, it was his team. He was the controlling owner. And I could try to change his mind, but if I didn't, it was my responsibility to effectuate his decisions as best I could.
Yeah, I think what I liked about the Raiders is that one of my really big idols is not idol, but the guy I really admire is Ron Wolf. And Ron Wolf was once asked, why do the Raiders in the 60s and 70s, they weren't really sharing a lot of information or a lot of film. And they asked them, why didn't you? And he goes, because we know more than everyone else, and that was their mentality that, we're going to do what we want. We're going to just win. There, no one can stop us. I remember Phil Villapiano said, in the Super Bowl year, John Madden said, we're going to basic stuff. We are going to beat teams. They're going to know what we're running, but we're going to beat them. And they were so talented and so good, they could do it. What do you think, and this is a hard question, what do you think is the reason, and there's probably not one, I don't want to disrespect Al, what do you think the reason is for the Raiders' downfall the last few decades?
Well, I will speak, and let me just address one thing that you mentioned. Al did things his own way.
Mm-hmm.
And it is for that reason I have the career that I have. And I'll just digress for 1 minute and then answer your question. I was again smiling as you were talking about the Raiders doing things differently. Well, Al hired me in the early part of the 80s. So I was an intern, and then in the mid 80s, I became a full-time employee. And there's a lot of discussion today about women in football and women in sports. Well, when he hired me, I was the only woman in that room. And that's because he did things his way. So that is something that always resonates with me. He wasn't deterred by race or gender or ethnicity or any other individuality, which has no bearing on whether one can do a job. And it is for that reason I have the career I do. Now, that said, I can speak to the end of my years in the Raiders, and I won't speak as much to recently, although I will if you wish me to. But, Al knew the end of his life was in sight. And, there were people who during those final years, when he was alive and when I was with the team, would say to me, he's not making decisions that are in the best long-term interest of the team. He's making decisions that are only short-term decisions, and that's not the best way to do this for the team. And I couldn't say a word because I was not going to share with anyone that which was so personal, which was his health condition. But all I remember thinking every time someone said that to me is, when you are young, when you are healthy, when you're young and healthy, or just healthy, or just young,
Yeah.
long term is different than when you are older and or when you're unhealthy, whether you're older or not. And I'm not saying this clearly or cleanly because I get emotional when I talk about it, but people were very critical of him in the final years of his life for making decisions that they didn't think were good long-term decisions. And I couldn't say a word. Well, whether I could or couldn't, I wouldn't disclose his personal condition. But what I was thinking is, when you know the end of your life is in sight, you define short-term and long-term very, very differently. He wanted to win again before he was gone. And so he made decisions that, people were absolutely right. They weren't the best long-term decisions, but he knew he didn't have a long-term.
Yeah.
And then when he passed away in 2011, I opted, I stayed with the team through the end of that season, and I made a decision to stay until I effectuated all of his desires and plans with respect to transition and estate planning. And then I made the hardest decision of my life, which again speaks to the life I have, and I know how fortunate I am. I chose to leave at that point. So I don't think I'm best suited to answer those questions for after I was gone. But you're right, the team has been struggling.
I think what I like about Al too is when people say he's this, he's that. Greg Papa had a real issue with Mark Davis at the end, and he left. And I think what I liked about Al was how extremely loyal he was and how extremely loyal the people around him were. And I think at the end, like you said, the salary cap issues, the signings, he was winning. He wanted to win now. I think Jerry Jones is kind of in that realm right now, and I totally get it. But it just, I love that how loyal everyone is to him and vice versa. Why
And
do you
so,
think that is?
well, he did so much for people that people are not aware of. And, going back to what I said about him hiring Tom Flores and Art Shell and hiring me, as I said, hiring all of us and others without regard to their race or their gender or their ethnicity or, as I said, any of these individualities which have no bearing on whether one can do a job. I would say to him about that, you deserve recognition for that. And there were so many things he did behind the scenes for people for which he also deserved recognition. And when I would mention to him, you deserve recognition for that, he immediately responded, hey, I didn't do it for recognition. And he didn't want recognition for that which he did, that which I mentioned, and all the things he did for people behind the scenes. And that speaks even more highly of him. When you do things and you don't want recognition for them, you are by definition doing them for the right reason.
Amy, that must have been such an amazing chapter in your life. You have such amazing stories that I know this week, though, you started something new. You actually started a brand new podcast called What the Football. Can you please tell us about that? And by the way, congratulations. We're very happy for you.
Awesome.
Well, thank you very much. As I've been saying on social media of late, when I chose to leave the Raiders, I was contacted about going on screen, on camera, on television. And I said, no, 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 no. I'm never, ever, ever going on TV. It's just not going to happen. And now here I am 11 years later, still on television. And then I said, when I joined CBS Sports and CBS Sports Network, a lovely woman in the PR department asked me if I'd like to go on social media. No, 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 no. I'm never going on social media. It's
Yeah.
not for me. I'm not going to do it. And then I pretty much decided it was invented for me. And then people said, well, would you ever like to do a podcast? And I said, nah, no, never going to do a podcast. Not for me. So here I am, 3 for 3, doing something I swore I'd never do. And I'm having a blast. I was approached by Suzy Shuster, for whom I have so much respect and so much admiration. And I'm doing it because I want to work with Suzy. And I want to work with Rich Eisen and the Rich Eisen Show and all of the, Westwood One and Cumulus. It's just a wonderful, wonderful, wonderful community of people. And I do recognize my good fortune in being able to work only with those with whom I want to work. So we're 1 week in. I was a little nervous. I'm done being nervous. And starting next Tuesday, you're getting raw, unfiltered Amy.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Oh, awesome.
I think Rich Eisen, we want to give a big shout out to him. People forget when he first started, he really paid dues. And he really was at the bottom rung, and he made himself quite a career. Now he's got an iconic career of himself. I love him, and I've always been supportive of him. I think he's a great talent, and I think he's, at least from Weiss, he may be a serial killer. I don't know, but he seems like a really nice guy.
He
So,
is.
yeah. So,
And
I'm excited.
it's funny that you use the serial killer reference, not funny as to Rich, because I'll talk about him in a minute. But I use that serial killer reference a lot. I always say that if someone doesn't like animals, I don't really think I'm going to like them a whole lot. But if a
Amen,
dog or a cat or another animal, a horse, a goat, if an animal doesn't like a human, I'm fairly convinced, particularly when it's a dog, that human must be a serial killer. But as to Rich, he is a magnificent, magnificent professional. He's magnificent at everything he does. He's an even more magnificent human being.
Oh, that's great to see. Now, the last question we want to say, what do you think? And I'm biased to the Raiders. Our family, like I said, have been going to games since 1960, before I was even a thought. So, what do you think is the one or two things you want to be remembered? Obviously, for being hired is the number one, but what do you want to be remembered for your time with the Raiders?
And by the way, I just want to note, I wasn't alive in 1960 either.
No.
Close, but not
Well,
quite.
you sure don't look it. So
Close, but
that's
not
for
quite.
sure.
Boy, during my years in the league and to this day, we see people move from team to team to team to team. And I'm not talking about players and coaches right now. I'm talking about, because those jobs, by definition, there's a lot of movement. But I saw people in front offices move from team to team to team. But yes, on the TV show, if I get a question and I don't have an answer, or I just am being silly, I'll say to my co-hosts, objection, Your Honor, calls for speculation, or objection, Your Honor, calls for a hypothetical. And then because I'm the only one on the TV show who went to law school, I sustain my own objection. It's kind of fun.
That's very judgy of you. That's great. But we adore you. As we've always told all our guests, we're very, very picky. Some people have said, get this person on, get this. I have to be honest with you, especially me. Florence is a lot nicer than me, probably that. But I'm very picky. I want people that we could believe in, that we could market, that we feel good about. So when we have someone on, we believe in them. So we never have a guest. We have friends. So we are going to really promote this. And we're going to also be doing some snippets on their stuff, and help Rich Eisen. Susan Schuster, if you've never seen her work, she's amazing. I love her personality.
Yes. And
she's great.
And as she was teasing on, and I don't know that maybe I'm saying she was being silly or funny about it, she was dead serious, probably. Not only is Rich magnificently talented, but as Suzy likes to point out, she has more Emmys than he does. And she does it with a big smile on her face. It is such an honor and a pleasure and so much fun to join you, but I'll underscore the word honor. And you know what? As to being picky, I'm picky too. And I don't say yes to a lot of things. And there was no question in my mind that I was going to say yes to this. I'm so honored to join you. And by the way, Why don't we go with selective? Doesn't selective sound better than picky?
That's why you have a law degree and I don't.
We're going to go with selective.
Selective is an excellent word.
And
I'm writing down a lot of your statements.
I'm so honored to join you. And if ever I can do anything to advance that which you're working on, to push out that which you're working on. And by the way, you are not done with me because I may just stalk you.
Oh, God, we like stalkers.
We would love that.
We have some good ones. 99% are pretty good, but thank you, Amy. And we're just, and I'll let Florence take the thing, but as a longtime Raider fan, I've become friends with some of the Raiders, and I'm all awestruck at the way that things happened in life. But to meet Mr. Davis, to meet you, to get be friends with the Villapianos and all these other people.
I love Phil.
It just really is touching that people will come on, because I feel a lot of the stuff from the Raiders lore is kind of eroded and gone. So I kind of try to be one of the many gatekeepers to people to remember all the things Al did.
I love
and all
that.
the things
I
Amy
love that.
did.
Well, thank you for doing that. Thank you for keeping those memories alive.
Well, we just want to say thank you to everyone out there who's been supporting our content, supporting our news articles. We've been doing articles for Newsbreak, and everyone's been so wonderful for sharing them. And also our TV appearances on TMZ. Again, everyone's been so wonderful and so supportive. And we just want to say thank you to everyone. And thank you for listening to our first podcast back for the season with the wonderful Amy Trask. And again, thank you all so much. We couldn't do it without you.
And we'll have all Amy's stuff down. We're starting Monday. We're going to go crazy. And please, please, please support our guests. It's very important to us. Take care, and we'll talk to you later.
Bye.
Thank you again.